Hello out there, Caniac Nation. Thanks for joining us for session 53 of Caniac Sessions. I'm Griff.
And I'm AB.
And I'm Brandon.
And we are back this evening on this wonderful Tuesday, wet Tuesday, might I add.
Yeah.
To kind of take a look at what's coming up in the future, right? So we've been focused primarily the last month or two on the this off season and contracts and possible arbitrations and trade rumors and this and that and everything else. Well, now that I think we've got everything mapped out, we just want to take a look beyond this season because everybody says how bad the Canes are going to be. Well, I'm done with it. So we are going to put this out there so everybody understands. Share this with your closest Rangers fan. Share this with your closest Isles fan, Caps fan, whoever else doubts the Canes and their future, because we're going to lay it out and we're going to tell you why the window is not closed. How we doing, boys?
I'm good. How about you?
Yeah, doing good. Yeah. How's the recovery going?
I feel great. There's the only thing that sucks now is when I sneeze, it really hurts. Other than that, I feel fine. I've actually never felt better in my whole life.
That's great. That's good.
Yeah,
That's good news.
It's unreal.
Good. AB, how you doing, buddy?
Done with finals. I got 2 weeks free and then back to the grind. So
that's going to be a good 2 weeks, huh?
I hope so.
You hope so?
Well, actually, I know so.
Well, good. Yeah, I'm doing well. I kind of I've been on this weird thing lately where I've been on this like hot wings kick for some reason.
Ooh, okay.
And for whatever reason, I'm like craving like the most spiciest sauce it's weird. But like I ate these Carolina Reaper flavored wings last night.
Oh my God.
Oh, yes.
And they were so good, but my mouth is like blistered. Like,
why would you do that to yourself?
I do the same
seriously.
thing. I love spicy food.
It's like melt my face off.
Yeah, no, I'll torture myself for some spicy food. I love it because now I can finally start eating it again because I couldn't eat it for a week. Now I can.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I love spicy food.
Yeah, I just melted my face off. Like, whatever.
Dude,
anyway.
I swear, when you have those Carolina Reaper or ghost pepper flavors, it's not like enjoyable. It's just like
I disagree.
And
I enjoy the hell out of it.
You are going to endure the most pain ever. You'd be like, oh, this is good. But at the same time, you're just pouring sweat.
I disagree. I think it's amazing. So, but anyway, we'll get going here. But before we do, first things first, we are brought to you by DraftKings, BetterHelp, and SeatGeek. As a member of THPN, that's the Hockey Podcast Network. We will get to that. But real quick, SeatGeek. So use promo code caniacsessions when you sign up for SeatGeek, and you can get $20 off your first purchase. Do that. Take advantage of that. It helps you. It helps us. And it helps SeatGeek. All right, let's get going here. So, not a lot of news, team news anyway, to talk about. We know that Martin Necas has signed. There is a couple things that we haven't talked about on this show. We've talked about it on other shows like Brandon's at the Warning Take. We discussed the Eric Staal news. So we will go ahead and cover that quickly, but we're not going to spend a lot of time or get in depth. But it was announced, and I'm sure everyone knows by now, that Eric Staal did sign a one-day contract with the Hurricanes to retire as a Hurricane. And with that, it was announced that his number would be raised to the rafters at some point this season to retire the number 12. I think that is the only possible scenario for Eric Staal. I'm glad it happened. I thought the team did good. The organization did good to, promote this and showcase this, and I can't wait for it to happen. Any quick thoughts on Eric Staal, AB?
Well, I'll just give you a summary. A 19-year-old kid drafted second overall in 2003, and in the 2005-06 season, he set the record for the most points in a season in Canes history since relocation with 100, followed up by 25 points in the playoffs, and helped bring the Stanley Cup to Raleigh.
Yeah.
Staal was in All-Star games, an All-Star game MVP, Olympic gold medalist, and the cover athlete of NHL 2008. He holds the record for the Canes since relocation with 322 goals, 453 assists, 775 points, 909 games played, 105 power play goals, 252 power play points, and 13 hat tricks, all within 12 seasons. Eric has set the standard for what it means to be a Carolina Hurricane and how to lead a team. Yes, he only made the playoffs twice with the Hurricanes, and regardless, he's made an impact on this franchise, and he 110% deserves this honor to have his jersey honored forever, because honestly, there's nobody like Eric Staal in Carolina Hurricanes history.
Absolutely. Yeah. And all those stats you just read, those are all first place in Carolina Hurricanes history since relocation. So, I mean, yeah, absolutely. He is, if you can't tell this team's history without talking about Eric Staal, flat out. Just like you can't talk about this team's history without talking about Rod Brind'Amour. And so, yeah, we talked about it in depth last week on the Warning Take with Brandon. And if you haven't checked that out or heard it, I encourage you to go check it out. It was a good job. But Brandon, I'll give you the floor here quick. Say anything you want about Staal quickly.
The best part about this is, so Francis and Wesley, their numbers are retired, but part of the factoring in with their number being retired was they both played for the Whalers.
Right.
Brind'Amour, he is the face of the franchise, the heartbeat of the franchise as a player and a coach both, but he did not spend he wasn't drafted by the Hurricanes. Eric Staal was drafted by the Hurricanes and spent the majority of his career with the Hurricanes. And this is the first time that we're retiring the number of a player who has that on his resume. I think that is really great they're doing that, and considering how there was some turbulent times when Eric was here, it's ending ultimately on a good note. His number's getting retired, and I'll never forget watching that video and seeing him light up when he signed that contract and read off the part that he would be getting his number retired. That made my day.
Yeah, absolutely. So something I'm curious about, though, and I was thinking about this the other day, and I don't think this has been answered, but do we think that, is the number retirement and the team Hall of Fame that they announced 2 seasons ago, like, are these the same, or is this like number goes up and then later you can be inducted into the Hurricanes Hall of Fame, or does that happen simultaneously? That's what
I'm sorry. The way I understand it, though, the number retirement automatically puts you into the Hurricanes Hall of Fame, because Wesley, Brind'Amour, and Francis were automatically in there, whereas Cam Ward and Justin Williams don't have their numbers retired, but they're in the Hurricanes Hall of Fame. So I think it's either you can be in the Hall of Fame without having your number retired, or if you do get your number retired, you're automatically in there, is the way I understand it.
Yeah. I mean, but then the team did say, well, maybe not the team, but the media said that this is not going to be Hall of Fame night. This is going to be a special ceremony and retirement for the number 12. So, do they bring him back twice? Or, I mean,
the thing is that if you are in the Hall of Fame, like, that's a prestigious honor. Yeah. Again, Justin Williams was one of them, Cam Ward, and they were both great hockey players. However, they're the guys that have impacted our franchise, like Wesley, Francis, Brind'Amour, and now Eric Staal. that's a different breed of people. So
but one could argue that 30 should be in the rafters.
But did it have as much of a impact as Eric Staal did? Because yes, Cam Ward was a very good goalie. He won a Conn Smythe, but Eric Staal has set so many records for this franchise. And so that's where I think,
I'm just curious, because if you're going with that, I mean, if you're going to say it has to be a franchise defining player, and there's a lot of, I mean, a lot of people assume that Jordan Staal, the number 11, will go up someday. Does it? In your opinion?
What they should do with that? They should divide the banner in half and have half of it be Jordo and half of it be Justin Williams, and then problem solved.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I don't know. It's I'm interested to hear what their plan is for that, because
wasn't it when they first did the Hurricanes Hall of Fame that they didn't include Brind'Amour and all the guys that had their number retired?
They did.
Yeah,
they didn't.
They put him in that same night as Cam Ward.
Okay.
So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out. But yeah, definitely number 12 deserves to be up there. It's going up there. I can't wait.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really it for news. A little thing that I wanted to touch on before we get into this look ahead here is Seth Jarvis. We still don't have a contract. Last we've heard is the team and the player are close. We heard that, we originally heard that they were north of $8 million on 8 years.
Mm-hmm.
And now we hear that they are right around 8 on 8 years. We know they're talking, but what is holding this up? I'm not saying I'm getting worried, but part of me kind of raises an eyebrow, like, this should be done. Like there's what's stopping it? Natchez is done. They've been talking. Why not just take care of it? Any opinions or thoughts or concerns that you guys have? Because I'm starting to get scared.
Yeah, I've got my concerns with it as well. The only thing I can think of is, normally with these contracts, it seems like the last thing that gets hammered out is the structuring of it. Like we will give you this much money over this many years. We already know that much. But how much of it is performance bonuses? How much of it is base salary versus signing bonuses? All that. I'm pretty sure, if I had to guess, and I have nothing to back this up, this is just speculation on my part. If I had to guess, that's what's holding it up. They're hammering out the little details like that.
Yeah, it could be.
Well, we know he wants to stay here. Again, like Brandon said, hammering out the little details. So Jarvis is probably going to be a Hurricane for life, but it's just closed doors. You never know what goes on behind him.
Trade clause stuff might be a factor.
So you have to just figure out every little thing, because you can offer somebody a bunch of money and they'd be like, hey, I want a no trade clause. I want this much money when I score a goal, etc.
I hear you, but look, there's this. So Tim Donnelly, right? So Tim Donnelly from 999 The Fan appeared on the Caniac Report. I believe that episode came out yesterday with Sam Driscoll interviewing Tim Donnelly. And he had this really, really good analogy that I don't know if you guys have listened to it, but I'm going to touch on it here. He said this Jarvis contract is kind of like a shark attack for him, right? You're driving to the beach. Somebody says, oh my gosh, you're going to the beach. There's sharks at the beach. Or, he thinks that, I don't want to get in the water. There's sharks in the water. I don't want to get attacked by a shark. And everybody tells him, oh, you're not going to get bit by a shark. You have more of a chance of this and that happening than getting bit by a shark. Okay. Yeah, I get it. But there's still sharks in the water, right? And that's kind of like the Jarvis contract. Everybody says it's going to get done. The team wants the player wants the team. Yeah, but there's still sharks in the water, right? So that was the perfect analogy for me. I was like, you know what? there are sharks in the water, and you never know what can happen. So it's not done till it's done, and I want it to get done. Thoughts?
I honestly think that's kind of stupid. To be quite honest,
it's not stupid. It makes perfect sense.
In my opinion.
Okay. Well, in my opinion, it is the perfect analogy.
He's gonna stay here. No need to worry. That's all I gotta say.
All right.
Yeah, it's. I'm still confident it's going to get done. I mean, I've still got a little bit of I've got my concerns as well, especially after everything that happened with Gensel and Aho getting offer sheeted a few years ago, all that type of stuff. But I think for the most part, it's going to get done. Now, I am curious to know what the holdup is. It would be nice if we would hear something, if they would just say, oh, we're hammering out the structuring. We're hammering out the trade protection, which, you know, Jarvis deserves some form of trade protection, in my opinion. He's going to be a piece of the franchise. If he's going to be a Hurricane for life, he deserves to have his trade protection and everything like that. Because, you know, guys, they center, like, once they have that trade protection, they know, okay, I'm not leaving. I can buy a house. I can homestead here. I can, you know, build my life here and not have to worry about randomly getting shipped off to San Jose or something like that. So that's where I think it's at. I do hope it's resolved soon, though, because the longer it goes on, I'd get a little bit more concerned about it by the day. Every time I come back out to my truck at work, I'm like, okay, Jarvis is going to be signed when I get there, and it's still not happened.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, so we'll just have to wait and see. Real quick, Matthew P's here. Evening all. Hey, Matthew, what's up, buddy? Glad you are with us tonight. And then he follows up with a comment that says, Adam Gold reported the other day that the office moved toward Jarvis camp and he'll be getting over $8 million for 8 years. Yeah, we've heard the Adam Gold reports as well. I mean, that's been the report. You know, player wants the team wants the player. They're not far apart. The team's moved, you know, closer to what he wants. You know, okay, great. But why aren't we signing it? That's what we're sitting here debating. And, you know, I think the general consensus is, you know, ironing out the structure and the final details. We won't know till we know, though. And, I mean, gosh, we've been saying any day now for weeks, but seriously, any day now. So, yeah. Anyway, so we are going to get into this look ahead. Real quick, though, before we do, we are going to hear from our first sponsor at DraftKings. Know the beautiful thing about being a sports fan? There's only like 2 days the whole year without a game. 2, with so much happening and so much action. That makes just about every day game day at DraftKings Sportsbook. It's super easy for first-timers to get started. Try betting on something simple like picking a team to win. Go to the DraftKings Sportsbook app, select your team, and place your first bet. It really couldn't be any easier, any simpler. And if you're new to DraftKings, you got to check this out. New customers bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code THPN. That's code THPN for new customers to get $150 in bonus bets instantly when you bet $5, only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Or in West Virginia, visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas. 21 plus age varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. Deposit and eligibility restrictions apply. Deposit and eligibility restrictions apply. See terms and responsible gaming resources at dkng.com/base. All right. We are back. You ready to get into this?
Sure.
There you go.
All right. So first things first here with this look ahead. We are going to start with our current year, right? We addressed this recently. Well, I addressed this recently in the last live at lunch that I did when I talked about the Natchez contract and how we had some money left for Jarvis. But I just wanted to show it here because, I tried to walk everybody through it the best I could. But here it is, written per Puckpedia. Our current cap space is $6,440,000. Okay. That's with a ton of extras that really aren't going to be on the opening night roster. Right. And I made some assumptions here. I assume that Robinson isn't going to be, Eric Robinson's not going to be on the Canes opening night roster. I don't think Tyson Jost will be. And I don't think Scott Morrow will be. I think those three will all be in Chicago with the Wolves to start the season. So I've also taken into account the estimated Seth Jarvis contract, right? And if we come in at $8 million, that bottom line is the cap space to the dollar that we would have if all of these assumptions are right. Now, if you want to plug and play names, if you think Eric Robinson's going to be here, but Bradley Nadeau's not, or whatever, fine. It's not really going to make that much difference because they're all making around the same amount of money anyway. Right? Now, the Jarvis contract, you see it can go up and down. However, whatever it comes in at, you can adjust that bottom line there. So there is enough cap space to sign Seth Jarvis and still have a little bit left over. Now, when we get into the cap space next season, I did not carry any of this over because this amount here is basically going to be Jacob Slavin's raise next season, right? So for purposes of this little experiment here, we are starting at 0 cap space moving forward. All right. You can see expected UFA departures. Jack Roslovic, Jesper Fast, Brendan Lemieux, Dmitry Orlov, Brent Burns, and Frederick Anderson. We are not expecting these players to be on our roster next season. Guys, do you think that's the case? Do you think the team tries to bring any of these guys back? Maybe a Brent Burns on a 1-year deal at $2 million or something, or what do you guys think about this?
Unfortunately, I think the alpha male of our species, I think it's time for him to hang it up, as much as it pains me to say. Jesper Foss, again, we don't know his status right now.
Right.
Roslovic is, if you play well, you may be signed or you may get a payday. It all depends. Lemieux, I think he could probably re-sign here. Orlov is 50-50 for me. And Anderson, I think, is gone after this year.
Yeah. Brandon, what do you think?
Roslovic, again, like you said, AB, it depends on how he plays. I think one of the reasons he's here is because there's still the question mark about the second line center position. Roslovic has played center before. I don't know if he will with Carolina. I could see them potentially experimenting with it. Jesper Fast, I think it depends because right now we don't know what his status is health-wise, and he may very well not be counting a cap against the cap next year if he's on LTIR. Lemieux, I would say, is the guy most likely on this list to stay for the exact same role. 13 forward, league minimum, play him when you need him. You know what you're getting out of him. Orlov, I would say that's more of a 75-25, 75 being that he will be gone. Only reason being is because the left side will be pretty filled up between Slavin, Nikishin, and Gostisbehere. However, I could see Orlov staying if they decided they wanted to just play him on the right side, which he's capable of. And in some ways, he looks more comfortable. So if you don't want to immediately have Morrow or Walker up there with Slavin, Orlov could play with Slavin. And that is also completely different depending on the next name on the list of Brent Burns being here or not. I could see him potentially signing a 1-year, $2 million deal, depending on how everything else shakes out. That would mostly depend on if they think Morrow is ready or not to really play full-time NHL minutes. Frederick Anderson, I only see him staying if he is relegated to strictly the backup role and making about half of what he's making now. And that also depends on if we have our sights set on another goalie. And right now it doesn't look like anybody we have in the farm is ready to make the jump within the next year. So I could see him staying with a pay cut, with Kochetkov being the number one.
Yeah, I agree with most of what you said. One thing I will disagree on is I do believe, like, I don't believe Dmitry Orlov stays. I believe it's 0-100, like that he's gone. But I could see Brent Burns, especially if he hasn't quite reached the Iron Man. I think he's got like 3 seasons to go or something to catch. Who is it? Who's the leader?
Yandel, I think.
Keith Yandel.
Yeah, I think he'd have to. Don't quote me on this, but I think he's got, like, I looked last season. I think it's like 3 seasons for him to reach that. And if maybe that was before last year, maybe it was only got 2. Anyway, if he is within reach of that streak record, I could see him just taking 1-year contracts just to go up and try to get it. Mm-hmm. And given the fact that the coaching staff loves him, he's already established in this area. His kids go to school here. His kids play hockey here. I could see him signing a 1 or 2 year deal at a low price just to stay and play for Rod.
Yeah, he just can't be on that first line anymore if he resigns.
Maybe not. I don't know what you do. I mean, he could play third pair. I mean, he's still an effective defenseman. I mean, we're not saying that he's got to run the first power play. I'm kind of over that, but I believe that's why we brought in Shane Gostisbehere this season, is to run that, that first unit. And Brent Burns will probably be, if we, whatever second unit we have out there, maybe it'll just be the Staal line and Brent Burns and I don't know, Nadeau or something, but who knows what that'll look like. But Brent Burns playing third pair, like a legitimate third pair at a $2 million cap hit for 2 seasons would be fine.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, assuming that he doesn't fall off any more than he, than he is right now. I'm not saying he's fallen off a ton. I'm just saying, like, unless there's like a significant decline between now and age 40.
I think that he just ultimately, he'll be fine as long as he plays less minutes. If you hand over power play 1 to Gostisbehere, for example, that will reduce his minutes anywhere, I'd say 3 to 5 a night. That adds up over an 82-game season. And then, come playoff time, he'll still have plenty of juice. So, and then not to mention, you've got other guys who can quarterback the power play. I know Sean Walker hadn't really done it a whole lot, but he's got good vision. He's got a good shot, and he's a good skater. He could probably quarterback power play too. And Gostisbehere can show him. So, I mean, and the perfect thing about that is when you do the bump up shifts right after the power play, the other 4 defensemen that would be out there are already paired with each other.
Absolutely.
So you don't even have to shuffle up the defense after a power play.
Mm-hmm. And this is this season problem. Next season, it's going to be Gostisbehere and Nikishin running the power play.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So, that's a this year thing. Real quick, we've got another comment from Matthew P. He said, I would not extend any of them, perhaps Roslovic, depending on how he plays. We have prospects that can and will replace everyone else. Yeah. I mean, that's fine. We'll see how Roslovic plays. I'm open to bringing him back in a bottom 6 role if he, I'm sure he's a solid bottom 6 player. I'm not sure about top 6. He can play anywhere in your lineup, but we'll see how he plays in this system. Yeah. Moving on to the next slide here, we have incoming prospects, right? So if we assume, well, let me go back real quick. If we assume all of these guys walk, right? For this exercise, we're going to assume all of them are gone in free agency. We don't bring anybody back. Okay. Incoming, we have Scott Morrow. He has his entry-level contract is $916,667 at the NHL level. And we have incoming Alexander Nikishin. I don't know what this guy's going to be paid. $1 million may be way off. I don't know if they want to pay him more and do like a 2-year thing instead of 3. I don't see him signing a 3-year ELC. But
I don't think he can. I think
because of his age.
Yeah, because of his age, I think he can only sign a 2. And I'll go ahead and say I think $1 million is actually a really good estimate on your part, because right now I think the max on ELCs is $925. By the time he gets here with the cap going up, that'll probably be about the max on ELCs.
Yeah,
I think that's a good estimate on your part.
Yeah, that's what I kind of went with. But I mean, I don't know. I don't know what his any kind of contract looks like for him beyond that. So
He deserves the max. I mean, just throw him the money.
Either way,
he'll get it.
Right. But either way, I wanted to show here, okay, you have, if we assume these are the replacements for Brent Burns and Dmitry Orlov, which is very well possible, you're replacing, I'm going back a slide here, basically, let's see, what is this math?
Probably
you're replacing $13,030,000 with less than $2 million. Okay. And these two players right here, I don't expect them to produce any less than their predecessors. And as a matter of fact, I expect them to produce more. Right. I think Alexander Nikishin and Scott Morrow together, not necessarily the same playing together, but those two on this team produce more than Dmitry Orlov and Brent Burns.
I agree.
Out the gate. So I just wanted to show that contrast. Now, with that, our projected cap space before any transaction happens, right, with all those UFAs leaving and with those two prospects coming in, we have well above $20 million of free and clear cap space. Now, it could be more because the cap is expected to rise again. I've seen some people say even as high as 92 million, right, from 88 for this upcoming season. So that's an additional $4 million on the cap, right? So whatever that increase is, just add it to that $20 million. And then obviously if they would happen to sign any of the pending UFAs, that number would change, if we decide to bring Roslovic back, for instance, but still, that's a ton of money, right? And the thing is about it, we don't really need anybody. I mean, yeah, you need a couple bottom six wingers, but like your top six is going to be the same top six. And again, this is before any transaction happens. Your top six is the same top six that's going to be on the ice this season. You have to replace a couple bottom six wingers, and you have over $20 million to do it. Thoughts?
So Carolina has set themselves up really good for long-term ability to sign players. So you think about all the guys we got coming up, and I wouldn't be surprised if we ended up having to trade at least one of them to make it work. But the way that they're setting things up, it might not have to happen. Nadeau, Blake, Felix Sorum, they're all going to need paychecks. Nikishin, Morrow are going to need paychecks. All that type of stuff. So having this much space now and then potentially having this much more later, because from the COVID timeframe, the cap's going to go up drastically over the next several years where they're making up for where it probably would have been at 92 million now had it not been for the events of 2020
right.
or 92, 94, somewhere in that area.
Mm-hmm.
So this is more than enough money to sign whoever you want to keep and go out on the market and get somebody, or if you need to trade for somebody, you'll have the cap space to make it happen and everything. So this is one of those times where I think Carolina should definitely be willing to trade just about any draft pick they have in the future, because we're getting to the point where we could have too many prospects, and that can also, I don't want to call it problematic, but it's inconvenient. So they don't need to draft a whole lot more players for the next season and a half, or season, 2 seasons, I should say. I don't know why I said season and a half, excuse me. But like, this is a good position for them to be in. Everybody that we need to get signed will more than likely get signed, and they're all going to be on good long-term deals. You're not going to have to go out on the market and get a bunch of guys. That's that many more assets you have to get someone at the deadline and say, okay, you did your part in the playoffs. Thank you. And they go elsewhere. Yeah.
And I mean, you've obviously got to save a little bit because some players are going to get paid, right? So assuming Nikishin comes in on a 2-year ELC, right, you're going to have to pay him in a couple years. And he's probably, depending upon, if he does what we expect him to do, he's going to get paid. So you got to save a little bit of money. A lot of that's going to be built in with the cap rising, right? But, other than that, Svetch is still long-term. I mean, he's got at that point, he'll have more than 4 years. Aho's long-term. Jarvis is going to be long-term, right? Natchez is, you're going to have to, figure him out. But I mean, he's at $6.5 million right now. I don't really think he's going to make a ton more than that, unless he just goes off and scores 100 points next season or something crazy. You never know. But you've got Slavin's locked up long term. You're going to have Morrow for a long time. You've got Goss Bear for 3, Walker for 5. I mean, you Carrier's for 5. I mean, there's term built into our roster. Tweaks, supporting roles is all you're really filling in. And with this cap space that we have coming up, that is a weapon. You have the opportunity. And when I say you, I mean the Carolina Hurricanes. They have the opportunity to add generational talent to this core. You got something to say there, AB? Let's hear it.
There's
buddy.
One person that we're going to cover. There's one.
I saw the finger go up. I know he wanted to say something.
There's one. And we'll probably get into it here in a minute. But if he doesn't get signed by his team, he's coming to Carolina.
Absolutely. Hey, real quick before we move on, I want to hit some of these comments. I don't know if that's Scott or Scote, Thomas. We're going to go with Scott.
At least you didn't mispronounce the thing like I did the other night.
Yes, that was great.
What did you say?
We'll talk about it later.
You got to go back and watch it, AB.
I'm going to make a short out of it, and I'll send it to you.
I'll probably just send me the
one of my top 5 moments on any podcast recording.
And it took me 3 or 4 times to figure out what was going on.
For everybody out there listening, if you want to know what we're talking about, go back and watch the Eric Staal special we did at the Warning Take. Anyway, Scott Thomas, I love the slides, guys. He says, thanks. Yeah, I put in a little bit of work on that today. Not a lot. This is not the first time we've used slides. We've been kind of trying to use them regularly. But
they're effective. They're very good.
Yeah, I got the idea. I stole the idea from you, Brandon.
Oh, so I'm sure I stole it from somebody else.
But yeah, thanks for that. Thanks, Scott. I appreciate it, buddy. Glad you like him. Ryan Fox is with us. Hey, Ryan, glad you joined us again tonight. He says second line center next year.
Hey, Ryan, is that Plank from Ed Nettie in The Swing? That's what it is. That Plank?
I think that's like a real picture.
You talking about in his picture?
Yeah, that's okay. I don't know if y'all ever watched the TV show Ed Nettie, but
of course,
the kid Johnny that had Plank, that looks like Plank.
I don't know.
That looks like something in a baby swing.
That's what I'm saying. It's Plank.
Well, we'll see what he says.
Yeah, I'm curious to know.
But
I'm pretty sure that's him.
But Ryan, you said second line center. Well, how about a first line center? And Aho becomes your second line center. That's what I'm talking about. That's the kind of cap space we have next season, right? You get somebody that, I mean, look, I love Aho. He's my favorite player. But if you bring in somebody like some of these names out here, hey, Aho's your second line center, and that is when you really become a contender.
That's lethality because it's still like Aho's got like he does first line center stuff in every single situation as it is. He's on power play 1. Yeah. He's one of Rod's most trusted penalty killers. And the best part about that is that's more time that you can have Aho out there shutting down the other team's best lines while still producing. And then you have another center out there doing damage against players that are lower on the other team's depth chart. That's a win-win to me.
Agree. Ryan says in his next comment, happy for another episode. Thanks, guys. Yeah, man. Thanks for being here. BTS, not the band. Yellow, he says.
Hey, buddy.
Glad you're with us. I gotta figure out who this guy is. BTS, not the band. I don't even know what that is. I'm sorry.
It's one of Brandon's.
Yeah,
well, I know, but I don't know what BTS, not the band is. Like, what is?
I think it's his initials.
Behind the scenes, not the band.
Is that what it is?
Maybe.
No, I think BTS are his initials, and then that's just his little moniker that he came up with. I think.
Okay.
He's told me about it before. I don't remember, though.
Shoot me a DM. Let me know. Matthew P. says again, so the 2025 UFA class is pretty neat. Absolutely. We're getting to that, Matthew. Just bear with us here. We've got like 5 more slides to get through. There's quite a bit more. He says, yep. All right, let's get back to slides. Let's move on to the next one. Oh, real quick, BTS says the warning take hit it on the nail.
Okay, I
So
figured
BTS
I
is
remember
his
him.
Initials.
He told me, and I was like making sure I remembered it correctly. Yeah, he told me about that before.
Okay, got it. Now I can quit wondering and like waking up at 2 a.m. being like, I wonder what BTS.
Hot sweats. Hot sweats.
It's like, what is the meaning of life? That's irrelevant. I want to know what BTS is.
Oh, okay. All right, next slide. All right, so potential needs next offseason. You guys can chime in and let me know if you think of anything else, but this is just what I put together off the top of my head. Right? Potential needs. Now, this is absolutely we need to be able to put a team and a product on the ice. We need 2 or 3 forwards, right? Because we're going to lose 3 in free agency. Or was it 3 or 4? Assuming everybody walks away. So you need to replace that, right? Bottom 6. And I think it was 2 bottom 6 forwards and then the 13th forward, assuming that's Lemieux. Right? So you need those 3, right? Could Jackson Blake or Felix Unger-Sorum make the jump next season, assuming they don't make it this season, right? And again, this is assuming Bradley Nadeau is on the current year roster coming up. We'll see how that shakes out in camp, but that's my kind of take on it. I think Bradley Nadeau is going to be on the roster, and I think the other 2 will not. I think the other 2 will be in Chicago. So could those prospects be the replacements, right? And again, those are entry-level deals that are less than $950,000 each. So, and then a goalie, right? We're going to need a goalie if Freddie walks after this season. Do they spend big on a goalie? Do they go out and get what if Shesterkin doesn't sign with the Rangers? What if they can't pay Shesterkin? Is that something you do? Or do you just sign somebody to a support role, a backup role, and roll with Kochetkov? But that's the question on the goalie, right? So your guys' thoughts on this?
I'll say that I haven't seen a lot of Jackson Blake to think that he'd be ready next year. Unger-Sorum was very close to making the team last year, so he's probably going to be there this year and obviously next year. Goalie, it all depends on how Kochetkov plays and if Anderson takes a step back, because we paid Kochetkov a 40-year contract with a total of $8 million. So, you just have to put the faith in Kochetkov. So it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah.
So I think that Felix Unger-Sorum will make the team next year. There's a need for him now with Teravainen being gone. I wouldn't be if there was room for him, he'd probably make it this year, but it's good to send him to Chicago and let him get used to the North American sized ice, the increased physicality of the game. It's going to be a lot faster pace of a game than anything he's played yet. So giving him that chance to adapt to it before jumping to the NHL, I think is a good idea. Jackson Blake, I think, could make the team out of necessity as well. Because if he were ready now and we knew Jesper Fast wasn't coming back and we hadn't signed the free agents we signed, you could slot him in with Jordan Staal and Jordan Martinook, and I think he'd be fine.
Who now? Sorry.
Jackson Blake.
Jackson Blake. Okay.
Yeah. Jackson Blake, I think, would fit that role perfectly, because when you think about Jesper Fast, you've seen him moved up and down the lineup a whole lot because he doesn't set the world on fire anywhere that he goes, but he's a utilitarian guy. He provides you a lot of depth scoring. He's got a lot of speed, hence the name. And, he's got a little bit of everything. He's one of those players that he's got some physicality, but it's not groundbreaking physicality. He's not slow, but he's definitely got plenty of speed. He chips in some offense. He defends well, which is a big deal. And Jackson Blake on top of that is very competitive. Like watching some of his NCAA games, how competitive he was really stood out. Brendan Moore will like that. That's why I think that you could put him with Jordan Staal and Jordan Martinook, where Jesper Fast would normally be, and him be fine there, and then eventually move up the lineup a season from then.
Yeah.
So I think he could do that. I think Felix Unger-Sorum is probably ahead of him as far as players that will make the team next, but I could see it happening.
Well, see, I'm going to have to disagree with both of you. I think Jackson Blake's closer to Raleigh than Felix Unger-Sorum is. I just do.
Okay.
That's just me.
No, that's a totally valid point, and that's basically like based on like a lot of the stuff I was saying, that he's got
Right.
the competitive nature, the speed, the physicality, defends well, works really hard every single shift. That's not to say that Felix Unger-Storm doesn't, but there's certain players you look at and you say, okay, this guy is a very smart player, cerebral playmaking type of player, skates hard, skates well, but it's not the competitiveness doesn't stand out. It's the hockey IQ that stands out with Felix Unger-Storm. That's what makes it valuable. Whereas Jackson Blake has like kind of a healthy mix between the hockey IQ side and the competitive side, the smart side and the gritty side. As far as goalies go, basically what AB said, if we need to see what we have with the Kochetkov this season. If we know that we're getting a definitive starter, then we just need to go get a backup that can play 30 games.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, having said all that, I do believe that there is, there's a future here in Raleigh for both Unger-Storm and Jackson Blake and Bradley Nadeau and all these guys, Scott Morrow, all these guys. I just think that, Brandon, I agree with everything you say about Blake and Unger-Storm. But, I think as far as this season goes, I think there's more of a need for a Jackson Blake type player than there is an Unger-Storm type player. And that's why I say, not to say that, he's better, whether he is or whether he's not. I just think given the need of the team this season, the scoring need, I think that Jackson Blake gives you more of a scoring threat than Unger-Storm does.
Yeah, and
Go ahead.
When we're in a transition year that we're in right now, that's a time where you, instead of it being who's better, it's more of a position of need type of thing. You fill a need first.
Yeah.
So that everything you're saying there makes sense.
Let's see here. All right. So, yeah, potential needs, forwards, goalies. Not really much to need on defense. Actually, none.
Because we're good there.
Yeah, if you need an extra defenseman, then you bring somebody up, from the AHL.
You got Morrow and Ty Smith both.
Smith. Yep. There's others too. So
Ronan Seeley.
I keep forgetting about Smith. I don't know why.
Isn't Stillman a
Riley
forward?
Stillman? Yeah.
Is he a forward?
He's a defenseman, like he's a defenseman.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say.
Yeah.
Was he here for 1 year?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I think it was 1 year with him.
How old is he? 21, 22?
I don't know. I'd have to look.
I think he's a little bit older than that.
He's a little bit older than that, yeah.
Okay.
I think he's been around for a while. All right, next slide. So now, again, given everything we've talked about, assuming everybody leaves, assuming Morrow and Nikishin move up, assuming Bradley Nadeau plays on the current year roster this year, these are our projected forward lines before any kind of transaction happens next offseason. Like we talked about earlier, your top six, right? If my projection, or others' projection is accurate, and Nadeau plays here, Kotkaniemi, figures it out and has a good season playing second line center, your top six doesn't change, right? You still got Martinook, you still got Jordan Staal, William Carrier, and Jack Drury. Now, the only thing you really need, are two bottom six wingers. Okay? And you have over $20 million to do that. Okay? Defensive pairings, again, before any transactions. You see we slotted Scott Morrow in where Brent Burns would be, and Alexander Nikishin where Dmitry Orlov would be. Now, we can debate who plays with who and where these guys should play and whatever. But all I did was just slot those guys in for their two predecessors and rolled with it. Not saying that this is exactly who's going to play with who, but just my little take there.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing to take care of here. No money to spend here, right? Other than, what you got to pay Alex Nikishin and what you got to pay Scott Morrow, which is like we already showed you. You're replacing $13 million of cap with less than $2 million.
Mm-hmm.
And then the goalies, right? Kochetkov is the only one that we have signed after this upcoming season. That those question marks right there. Do you go get a big name, or do you sign somebody to be Kochetkov's backup? And this is a list of just some names. Not saying this is number one priority. This would be the number one on the team's list. Not saying any of these guys would be even a target of the team, but just some names because this upcoming offseason, the names are big. As of right now, do I really expect Mikko Rantanen to be a free agent this time next year?
No.
Not really. I think he's going to sign and stay in Colorado if they can pay him. Do I think Mitch Marner is going to be a free agent next season? Maybe. I still think that Toronto figures that out. But these other two here, Leon Draisaitl, I don't think he's staying in Edmonton.
No.
I think he's sick of playing in McDavid's shadow. Not to say they aren't friends or they don't respect each other. Like I'm sure they are great. I'm sure they care about each other. That's all good. But I think he would like to be the star on his own team. And I think he wants to be the guy and not have to have the team's entire cap space in two guys.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So I could see him available come free agency next offseason. And then assuming that Pyotr Kochetkov is the starter, these are just a couple guys that the AB put out here just to say, hey, maybe these are backup options. And even if it's not the name, it's the contract is probably similar. So your guys' thoughts on this list, anybody else you want to add to it, take off of it? What do you think? Floor's yours.
Brendan, you go ahead.
All right. So my list would be pretty much the same as this, because as far as depth pieces go, long-term pieces go of guys that we have right now that are 22 or younger, we've got all that pretty much figured out as far as who's here right now. All these guys would fill a top 6 role or be a backup goalie. So that really our needs are really narrowed down in the future. Draisaitl, I think, would be unlikely just because I don't think the Hurricanes would pay him $13 million. And defensively, he's probably not something that he's probably not the type of player that Brendan Moore would be looking for. Now, maybe he could adjust his game, or the organization could be like, hey, Rod, this is Leon Draisaitl. We kind of give him some leeway and let him do his thing. Mikko Rantanen, I think, would be an excellent fit. It would be a lot like what we were getting with Gensel if we were to be able to get someone like Mikko Rantanen. Nikolai Ehlers, we have discussed extensively. Out of everybody on this list, one, I think that is the most realistic possibility, and two, I think he would be the most seamless fit. He wouldn't really have to make a whole lot of adjustments to his game to play for Carolina. Marner, see, this is where I'm really up in the air on this. I don't think Marner's leaving Toronto. Yeah, I think that they would move on from Tavares first to keep Marner, because Marner's still a long-term investment. He's only 26. So I think that they're going to find a way to keep Marner, even if they got to trade a whole bunch of people and go through a year where they have one really good line and everybody else is basically an AHL team. If they had to do that, I think they would. Mackenzie Blackwood, between him and Charlie Lindgren, Mackenzie Blackwood would be my choice as far as a backup goalie. I mean, the two players I would want the most on this list are Mikko Rantanen and Nikolai Ehlers. And the cool thing about it is, even with the raises they would get and the amount of cap space Carolina has, if they've managed to move some salary out, both of them could be Hurricanes. You could potentially get them both. It's not likely, but it can be done.
Yes. And that's what I'm trying to show here is, there's so many combinations, opportunities that you could really, use that money for. Mm-hmm. And if they do it right, I mean, we could be set up for
years.
Okay,
well, here's an interesting question then.
Real quick, I want you to hold that thought because I need to get to my next sponsor quickly.
Okay.
So just a second. This session is sponsored by BetterHelp. What are your self-care non-negotiables? Maybe you never skip leg day or therapy day. When your schedule is packed with kids' activities, big work projects, and more, it's easy to let your priorities slip. Even when we know what makes us happy, it's hard to make time for it. But when you feel like you have no time for yourself, non-negotiables like therapy are more important than ever. You guys have heard me talk about this before, right? Therapy helps, right? And if you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Never skip therapy day with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/THPN today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/THPN. All right. Go for it, Brandon. Hit me with that question.
So even with money a factor here, if you have a choice, you can either have Leon Draisaitl or you can have both Mikko Rantanen and Nikolai Ehlers.
Ooh.
Because I already know which one I'm going with. I'm taking two players over one in any given situation like that.
Man.
I know that's a tough one, isn't it?
I don't know, man.
We're going to put a poll on X later.
I'm going to. Or you can. But
yeah,
I don't know. Like, I've wanted a center we need centers so bad. And this guy is the best. One of the best. Generational. Man, I mean, just yes, if you could get Rantanen and Ehlers, you got two wingers. I mean, but then what does that really do for you? I mean, your center depth's the same. You bump, you can plug and play with wingers however you want. But now, then you're looking at the case of having Nadeau playing lower in your lineup. Potentially Natchez or Jarvis playing lower in your lineup, depending on how you wanted to do. I don't know. I think we need centers. And if you have the opportunity to sign Leon Draisaitl, to an 8-year contract and put him on your first line, right? And then bump Aho down to your second line. Wow. What? And then, at some point, Jordan Staal is going to retire and leave. Then Kotkaniemi can actually play in a role that he is good at instead of trying to make him something he's not, like the second line center. Right. And then Jack Drury could be your fourth. That's perfect center depth. And I don't know. I like the 2-for-1, but just because Leon Draisaitl is a center and he is like the dude, you know what I mean? I don't know. I would almost say Draisaitl.
Here's what I imagine with this, though. If we decided to move Jarvis back to his natural position and you have him play center on your second line, at that point, your top six isn't a first line and a second line. It's two first lines with two completely different skill sets that you can apply in different situations. I would love to see Mikko, and we might get to see this at the Four Nations face-off. Mikko Rantanen and Sebastian Aho together, I think would be an excellent combination, just like how good Aho was with Gensel. And then if you have Nikolai Ehlers on that line as well, and then your other line is Seth Jarvis, Martin Natchez, and Andrei Svechnikov. But again, that does bring up what you were talking about with that bumps Nadeau down the lineup. Unless we're just going to build a super team and try and split everyone's minutes evenly with the forwards, kind of like they do with the defense. There's a lot of options there if you did go get both. Like I said, it's highly unlikely that would happen. But
well, look, I'm kind of getting tired of Carolina doing this.
Wait and see.
Well, success with depth. I'm kind of getting to the point where I want a line that's going to go out there and score at will. I mean, if we could have two really, really, really good lines, a checking line, a shutdown line, whatever, and then a line that can go out there and just be semi-productive. I feel like that's where we need to get to. I don't know.
That when they had the 5 seconds that we got to see the Kuznetsov, Natchez, and Gensel line, I was so happy. I'm finally, we have a line that rolls out there to an offensive zone draw, and the other team goes, oh no, this is not good.
Because, I mean, if you bring in Rantanen and Ehlers, which is fine, like that would be great. Don't get me wrong, but your prospects, there's no room, right?
I'll say this is that out of the past 6 years that Draisaitl has played, he has hit 100 points in 5 of those 6 years.
Yeah.
Rantanen and Ehlers, yes, they are very good, but Leon Draisaitl, if he were to hit the market, it's very rare that you have a player of that caliber to hit free agency. And for years, ever since Trocheck left, we've been asking about a second line center. We've been okay with wings, but the second line center, and Aho would probably be bumped down to the second line center. Leon Draisaitl for $13 million, I'd pay that any day of the week.
Well, Aho's going to get his minutes killing penalties and doing all the other stuff he does anyway. Draisaitl wouldn't be killing penalties or any of that.
No. That says greater than 13 million. It could be as high as 14.
That's the other problem with why I'm kind of like reluctant to even look at Draisaitl, because that's a lot of money.
It is, but
it is a need.
It is a need. And it would like, I mean, that's arguably the reason. I mean, other than maybe goaltending, but that's well, not 2 seasons ago, not when we were playing Florida in the Eastern Conference Final. The reason we lost that series is because
scoring.
Huh? Well, yeah, Bobrovsky, but I mean, we had our chances.
We did. If Seth Jarvis hadn't hit the crossbar in the third overtime of game 1, we might be having a different discussion.
But Draisaitl that year, when we were in the Eastern Conference Finals, he scored 52 goals, 76 assists. So imagine having him on that team. It'd probably be a different story.
I don't know. It's a heck of a debate for sure. But, you know, what I'm trying to show here is just the potential, man. The you know, these people, and I'm going to go to my next slide quickly here. My summary and conclusion. There's a ton of cap space next offseason, right? And I just wanted to paint the picture, and I wanted to show everybody out there what it looks like in text, right? I don't want to just talk about it anymore. Oh, well, look, you know, nobody's really paying attention to the cap. You know, these flipping Rangers fans and Islanders fans will hear, oh, Carolina sucks. Their window's closed and have fun golfing and all this. No.
This team that we have coming up, you remember in 2019 when they went out and got Trocheck and Shea and Vatanen at the deadline? This is the type of team that is. This is a team that hovers around Metro 2-3, maybe drops down to wild card 1 once in a while. But it's one of those that, like, you know, okay, leave you about $1 million of cap space at the beginning of the season, let it accrue.
Right.
And then next thing you know, you can go get someone like Vincent Trocheck, and then problem is solved. Like, not literally Trocheck, but a Trocheck archetype type of player. I don't know who would be out there at that point, but at some point or another, there's going to be a team. You know, Boone Jenner's name has been thrown around. I think he would be great. If we could get Columbus to give him, I'd take him over Line any day. And because you know what you're getting with Boone Jenner. So would it be nice to have at least one player who can fit a puck in a coin slot like Line A can? Sure. But he's not the only option in that regard. Boone Jenner fills an immediate need, and he's only 31. So you could sign him for 2, 3, 4 seasons after this contract is over, and it's one less thing you have to worry about for a little while. So that's where I think they really need to be looking, is somewhere like that. But I'm also not opposed to spending the money to bring in a big name like Leon Draisaitl, because like you guys are saying, if he'd been here on the last 2 teams, or the last team we've had over the last 2 seasons, we don't know what would have happened.
I mean, right. And
so why not take that chance next year?
If someone's available, we should. Either way, a big signing needs to happen next year.
There's a big name coming. Look, they've got the money. This is the reason that they've been managing their cap like they have year after year after year. This is why we haven't been, you know, signing these stupid, ridiculous contracts. And you know, when we get mad that so-and-so's walking, Dougie, oh my God, Dougie left. You know, well, turns out Dougie sits in the booth hurt. You know,
did that for us.
So I'm just saying, you know, look, ton of cap space, not a lot of needs, and you can address your wants. You can go shopping, right? Window shopping, and just kind of impulse buy, right? there's an opportunity here to add major pieces in free agency to the core.
Mm-hmm.
And most of the cap space that we're getting is from the blue line, right? Departures from the blue line with 2 guys already slotted as replacements. So I'm done with these casuals coming at me on X talking about Carolina's done, blah, blah, the window's closed, blah, 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 blah. Absolutely not. It's still open. It hasn't closed. They could win it this year. If they get some bracket luck and they happen to things just click, right?
Bracket luck would be nice. We've not had that in a long time because it's like okay, we looked at all the goalies that we've been eliminated by over the last 6 years. Tuukka Rask, Igor Shesterkin, Sergei Bobrovsky, Shesterkin again. And then not to mention the last 3 coaches that eliminated Brind'Amour. Gerard Gallant, Paul Maurice, and Peter Laviolette. One of them is one of the best coaches that there's ever been, and the other 2 coached Brind'Amour. If anybody was going to know how to beat them, it was going to be them. It's like a lot of it has been bad luck. Like we played against the President's Trophy winner in the second round because of the stupid playoff format. So now I'm not saying that you still have to win that series regardless of it, but we shouldn't be playing the President's Trophy winner and the second place team in the Eastern Conference shouldn't be playing each other, or third place team in the Eastern Conference, whatever we were, shouldn't be playing each other in the second round. It's dumb.
I agree. Yes. 1 through 8 format.
I wish they would bring that back.
So do I. But anyway, my point is just that you just never know. Like we talked about, or like I talked about in my last live talking about the Nature's contract, right? It's if a team like we had 2 seasons ago can make it to Eastern Conference Final with injuries, your best guys are out. Svetch, Pacioretty, gone. Teravainen out with a broken thumb. McEachran's playing on your top line. You still managed to get through the Islanders, the Devils, the Devils still beat New York in the first round, the Rangers, in 7 games. I mean, that's still they were still a good team.
Yes.
But we were just able to go up and get it.
The biggest reason we beat the Devils in that series was because we were the first defensive stalwart they had to really face in that series. And when you stifle don't get me wrong, Jersey's got great transition game and everything.
Right.
Guys like Jack Hughes, Nico Hischier, all them, they're really good at that. But when you constantly sit there and deny entry at the blue line and they can't generate anything off the rush, they're not going to dump pucks in and go get them and generate chances and score like Carolina does as much. So if they don't score off the rush, they're not scoring. So it's like, they were still a good team.
You're a matchup. You're a good matchup away from making a deep run. And I'm not saying this team's going to win the cup. I don't think this team's going to win the cup. But I mean, look, we haven't made it past. We haven't won a game beyond the second round in
2006,
9,
the cup year.
The cup year.
Yeah,
we got swept in 2009.
That's right. That's right. So, I mean, you win 1 game in the third round, you've outperformed any other team that didn't win a Stanley Cup.
I remember saying
other than 02.
Oh, my bad.
No, you're good. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say on one of my pregame shows, and I think Sam was on with me, I remember saying this during the playoffs. I said, if Carolina makes it to the Eastern Conference Finals, I would take losing game 2 and 3 to win game 1 because then the curse gets out of their head.
Yeah,
I really would. And it gets out of our head as fans too. I'm like, win game 1 and then all of a sudden that monkey's off your back. And then, okay, if you lose 2 close games after that, you at least know you can win.
Yeah. So just going through these comments real quick. We're about to get out of here. But there's one, a lot of this stuff is just kind of talking off of some of the stuff we were joking about. But there's one I really want to get to and just discuss quickly before we get out of here. And it's from Matthew P. He says, that's why I'm never the guy that says letting a free agent walk is, quote, losing him for nothing. Cap space is not nothing. And I agree with this, right? I've been, matter of fact, Matthew and I were kind of letting somebody have it on X the other day about this subject. Not really letting him have it, but we were kind of, he disagreed, and then I kind of piggybacked off of it. Now I agree with that, right? I know, there's some friends of ours that always say you can't let a free agent walk without getting something in return, and that's fine. That mentality is fine if you are not a contender, right? If you're a contender and you're in a position to win, you don't trade a guy at the deadline just to get an asset for him if you think he's going to walk in free agency. No, you keep him on your roster and you try to win, right? And that just hasn't, that's been our position for the better part of a decade. We have been a contender. I mean, in some shape. I mean, you're trying to make a run, and if you trade away guys that you think are going to walk, just to get a first round pick or something, that's just not the way you conduct business. Now, if you're not in the playoffs, if you're outside of the playoffs at the deadline, then yeah, you're going to trade a guy that's going to walk in free agency, or you're not going to re-sign. Yeah, trade him, get some assets back, but you're not losing a guy for nothing, right? We don't need to trade Dmitry Orlov at the deadline to Toronto so he can go play in the playoffs with Toronto just so we can get some jackwagon prospect and a second round pick from Toronto. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're getting $7.75 million at the end of the season in cap space. So that's why I totally agree with Matthew's comment here. It's cap space is not nothing. It's something. And this is a perfect example of that, right? This is the picture. Your guys' thoughts?
7.75 would get us Nikolai Ehlers in free agency and then some.
Yeah. Yeah. And his peg leg brother down the street.
Yep. Oh my God.
Depth.
Yeah.
And then another thing is, when it comes to, I just want to touch on the Natchez signing real quick. It's a good thing we got him signed to this deal because some hesitancy around people trading for him. They didn't want to trade for a guy that wasn't signed. Whereas now they know exactly what the number is. Mm-hmm. So if you still want to trade Natchez, now it's, exactly how much money exactly how much he goes against the cap. And it kind of gives you a more definitive value of what you would ask teams for in return because you're not trading an RFA anymore. So
right, correct. But I'm on the side of the fence that we get Natchez signed long term.
No, I want to keep him. I really do.
Yeah. So
I think we need to because we can't let all of our scoring walk. That's why I'm glad we got him to stay.
Yeah. So am I. Especially if you can't get somebody of equal or higher production back in return. But all right, that's all I got. Any last thoughts, Brandon? AB, what you got? Anything?
Got nothing.
All right, AB, take us out, buddy.
Thank you so much for listening and watching session 53 of Caniac Sessions. If you're watching this right now on YouTube, please like the video, comment, subscribe, turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of the videos we put out, and follow us on our social media at X, Instagram, Facebook, and now TikTok.
Oh boy, big time.
Yes. And Brandon, tell them where they can find you.
I am currently on X and YouTube both at the same name, The Warning Take.
So if you want to keep up with Griff personally, you can follow him on X at M_Griff10. And if you want to keep up with me on X, you can follow me at AB Caniac Session. Thank you so much for listening and watching session 53, and we will see you in session 54.
Bye.